Julie Robinson joins me, Chief Executive of the Independent Schools Council. Good afternoon to you, Julie.
Good afternoon.
You're actually at the Labour Party conference itself. That must be an interesting time for you at the moment.
It certainly is.
Well, give me a flavour of the kind of conversations you've been having.
Well, it's clear to us that this whole idea about abolition of the private sector in education is pure ideological tokenism. It's based on a misconception about independent schooling. And across the day yesterday, conference seemed to be fixated on one school only.
Eton.
Yeah.
Well, talk about the wider economy of independent schools.
At the moment, independent schools in this country contribute £14 billion a year to GDP. They save the taxpayer £3.5 billion a year by educating around 600,000 children free to the state, outside the state system. They're worth about £920 million a year as an export. They've got a great reputation overseas, so they attract business into this country, and they are connected. They're integrated, if you like, into the overall education system through partnerships, through sponsorship of academies, and really positive works to help children prepare for university. And that's across the board, not only their own pupils, but other pupils, and also providing over £1 million a day in fees assistance for children who couldn't otherwise afford to attend these schools.
Nobody wants to knock, well, I hope nobody wants to knock success and happy children with great results, or the best results they could ever get, and great opportunities in life. Nobody should ever want to knock that. But you know that there is another list that we could give you, and that is a fine list you've just given us, and an important one. I don't mean to be facetious about it for a second. There is another list, isn't there, about the outcomes for people in private education in terms of the professions they access, the over-representation of them in those professions as per the numbers of them in the actual general population. Address that list, if you would.
Well, abolishing independent schools wouldn't necessarily improve provision. It certainly wouldn't improve provision for state pupils. It wouldn't necessarily broaden access to the top professions either, because the kinds of people who go there are from the kinds of families who have supportive parents and, positive support alongside education. You can't blame social and economic inequality on schools.
So, sorry, are you saying to me it's not the schools, it's the families? That's why people aren't getting into the top echelons of law, of medicine? You don't accept there's any imbalance?
Oh, the current makeup of senior professions is more a reflection of the school system that existed 30 to 50 years ago, inclusive of direct grant grammar schools, which is a very good system. But removing independent schools wouldn't necessarily open up the professions to a wider social mix, because education and social inequality exists for a whole host of reasons.
Do you believe that it is a vindictive policy, a policy of envy?
I've heard it described as that, and it certainly doesn't seem to be based on fact or figures, because we know that the idea that this would improve social justice or social mobility is really flawed, because if you forced 600,000 pupils into the state system, you'd then be the taxpayer would have to foot the bill for those children. They'd create overcrowded classrooms. They'd put more pressure on the state system and make things worse.
Those who argue for it, and I'm not one of them, but those who argue for it insist that it is one important action against inequality. You say it's the opposite.
Yes, I do indeed. I don't think that tearing down good schools is going to help. Independent schools are great for aspiration. They provide bursaries. They support the broader system. Independent schools increase the capacity of education across our country and provide certain specialisms, which are great for opportunities for children who don't all pay full fees in music and drama and the arts, special needs schools. 85,000 pupils across independent schools, council schools, are special needs children. So, we're not as we're portrayed.
Are some independent schools exclusively for children with special educational needs, out of interest, in that wider economy you were talking about? Because I know that many parents find it difficult to get their child into a school that serves them.
Yes, that's what I mean by increasing specialism and capacity across the piece. We have specialist independent schools for special needs pupils, and we also have special needs children within independent schools. People have this idea based on that one school, that amazing, unique school that's been made become a sort of a token stereotype for our sector.
That produces really strange prime ministers. Many prime ministers. There you go. We'll do that. How about that?
I'd say each prime minister is unique. Each school is unique. But people have this idea about these schools, but actually, half of the ISC schools are academically selective. The other half are not selective. So I was a head of 2 prep schools in the southeast, and parents just wanted their children to be happy. They wanted a broad education. They wanted opportunities, and they just wanted to exert their human right to do their best for their children. They paid for nursery school. They chose to pay for school. They could choose to pay for tutoring outside of school. They could choose to pay for coaching and other opportunities that we all as parents want to give our children if we can.
Thank you. Good to talk to you, Julie. Julie Robinson, Chief Executive of the Independent Schools Council.